Um, this reading is taken from my latest novel, which is On the Ice, and I'm going to read you the scene where the two main characters attempt to get intimate. And they are in Jenna James's bedroom in a hotel, and Jenna is an overly confident, lifelong lesbian, and Susan Quinn seems to be new to absolutely everything. Jenna has decided to put Susan at ease by stripping off completely and standing naked in front of her to show her there's nothing to be afraid of, and this is what happens. Jenna took off her final piece of clothing and presented herself to Susan. I don't want us to have a fumble around in the dark, Susan. I want us to make love properly. I want it to be raw and passionate, where we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. And we'll only get that if we're completely comfortable with one another. Susan wasn't listening. She was fixated on the entirely bald area between Jenna's legs. Jenna lifted her hands in the air. This is me, Susan, and I want you to experience all of me. You've got no hair at all. Susan's voice was timid. Jenna continued to chat away, not caring in the least that she was standing there completely naked. Of course not, but you understand what I'm saying when I say we need to be comfortable with one another. Our connection's so intense that we're going to get carried away here, there and everywhere. And I don't want you constantly thinking, oh no, it's too light, or what if she sees my bottom? You're beautiful, Susan, and I want to see you, all of you. Do any lesbians have hair? whispered Susan. No, of course not, it's 2013. Gentle hair's been bred out to the lesbian species. Jenna paused and took stock of Susan's wide eyes. Sorry, no, I'm exaggerating. She sat back down on the bed and smiled. Lots of women have little landing strips, or maybe, you know, those tiny little triangles. Is that what you've got? Everyone's different, and I haven't got a preference. I just want to see you, Susan, and I want to hold you, and I want to kiss you, and I want to make love to you. Susan coughed lightly and bent down to lift Jenna's pink top from the floor. I want you to see me. I want us to do this. I want us to do all of this. She smiled nervously. But I need a drink first, a cold one, and I promise you I won't stop us again, but I need a cold drink first. A cold drink? Fine, said Jenna, quickly grabbing her clothes. Give me 5 minutes and don't you dare go anywhere. Susan waited for Jenna to bustle out of the bedroom before dashing straight into Jenna's bathroom. Susan pulled down her trousers and stared in horror at her huge thatch of freshly washed, bouncing black pubic hair. Compared to Jenna's bald eagle, it looked like she got a prize-winning topiary hedge growing between her legs, or a genuine 60s afro with added hair extensions. She gasped and pressed on it gently, watching as it sprung back into position, something that she'd been terribly proud of only an hour ago. Susan panicked. She'd spent a good 10 minutes when getting ready, plucking away at the odd runaway hair on the inside of her thigh or on the base of her stomach, and had assumed that that degree of preening would be enough. How wrong had she been? Susan Quinn took a deep breath and looked down at herself once more. Her muff was plump. No, it was more than plump, it was vivacious, and up until now she considered it a fairly redeeming feature. She didn't have a minge with long or lanky lengths of hair, she had a muff that was fully thatched and laughing with life. Susan caught sight of herself in Jenna's bathroom mirror and watched as the colour drained from her face. It has to go, she realised, scanning around the small space for any signs of a sharp instrument. She spotted Jenna's stripy wash bag resting next to the sink and reached for the zip, sighing with relief as she saw the electric ladyshave nestled neatly in an inside pocket. She pulled it out and switched it on, reassured by the powerful buzzing and the tilting blades. Susan silenced the machine and yanked off her bottom half, quickly lifting the lid of the toilet. She sat down and spread her legs, positioning the shaver at the top of her thatch. She'd just mow it all off, she decided, quickly flicking the switch back to life. With one swift action, Susan Quinn plunged the machine deep down into her mountain of muff. Her scream was shrill. Ah, she cried as the blades ripped the hair from the root. No, she screamed as her muff started to mat. Ow, she wailed, as the stabbing got slower and the churning got louder and the buzzing ground to a sudden halt. Susan Quinn almost threw up. The pain was utterly unbearable. Matted amongst her mound of pubic hair was Jenna's shaving implement of choice, a top-of-the-range electric epilator that used forcible extraction to rid the body of hair. Susan leaned backwards and was momentarily relieved by the cool toilet seat pressing against her naked back. She bit her bottom lip and told herself not to cry. She had time, she thought. moving forwards and supporting the machine with one hand. She rose from the seat and hobbled to the sink, reaching for the wash bag and praying she'd find some scissors. Susan gasped. No scissors. She told herself to calm down and unclip the pocket at the front. It was tight and she struggled to push her fingers all the way in. She patted around and discovered a loose tampon, 2 hair grips and a large amount of crushed up facial powder. Susan wailed in despair and leaned over the sink, knocking the epilator out of her grasp and sending it swinging between her legs. She yelled out in pain as her prized pubes were stretched taut. Susan fell to her knees in an attempt to scoop the machine back to the safety of her bush. She dropped backwards onto her bottom and was about to close her eyes in defeat when she spotted the small manicure box on the floor next to the pipes. It must have fallen, she realised, grabbing it quickly and flicking it open, praying she'd find something sharp. Her eyes widened at the sight of the 2 small implements, a pair of nail clippers and a metal nail file. Susan pulled herself up and waddled back to the toilet. She sat down, making sure she lowered the epilator as she went. Taking a deep breath, Susan looked at the 2 tools. She opted for the sharpness of the nail clippers first and dropped the nail file back down to the floor. She held the tangle machine in her left hand and pulled it as taut as she could handle. Gripping the small metal clippers in her right hand, she started to snip. One singular, rather damaged hair broke free. No, she gasped, trying to repeat the action more quickly. One more broke free. Susan's eyes widened at the mound of muff that was still completely entangled around the blades of the machine. Snipping would take far too long. Maybe the file would slice it off instead. Susan dropped the nail clippers and reached for the metal file, pulling the machine taut once more. She started to saw. Nothing happened, so she pulled even harder and thrust the file forwards and backwards at speed. Still nothing happened. No, she cried in total despair. All okay in there? Asked the voice. Susan looked at the door in horror. Yes, I'm fine, it's... She dropped her head down to the mess between her legs and found herself at a total loss for words. Can I come in? Jenna sounded concerned. No, I'm in a mess, Susan felt the tears begin to gather behind her eyes and the lump that had formed at the back of her throat was making it very difficult to talk. What do you need? Jenna pushed on the handle. Something's wrong, I'm coming in. No, shouted Susan, trying to cover her boobs and her mangled muff all at the same time. Jenna glimpsed the sight and stepped back behind the door, leaving it slightly ajar so she could talk, but at the same time save Susan's dignity. Sorry, I didn't know you were on the toilet. Jenna paused, realising what she'd just seen. You're naked, on the toilet. Are you okay? Why are you naked, Susan? Susan didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. She'd never been in such a jaw-droppingly embarrassing situation in her whole entire life. What choice did she have but to sniff back a tear and admit defeat? I'm so sorry, Jenna. I need your help. Jenna burst back through the door and dropped onto her knees next to Susan. What's going on? Are you ill? Are you in pain? What can I do? Susan looked down and slowly removed the hand that had been covering the mound of mangled muff. Get rid of this? Jenna gulped. The grass on the field or the lawnmower that's stuck in the bush?